Hey,
Hey,
I missed you. I was talking to me.
I know. Did you know?
No,
Oh, I knew.
Oh, there you are.
I'm sure he was talking to you.
No,
since you were
no,
good.
not even a little bit. I know her too well now. All right. I don't know what wants to sit next to me because I had COVID. I get it. I get it.
I'm not afraid.
Don't push
I
the
can't
mic
get
away.
any
What are you
closer.
doing?
Skirt.
I like can't get any closer. We're like, all right, I guess I could get closer. I just feel weird about this cord.
Put it around your laptop the other way. What is that? That's so much worse.
That's stressing
I
me
hate
out.
you. That just made me hate you.
It's still bothering me. Look how it's
Stop.
I think we should keep this whole.
Why can't you plug it in normal?
it has a kink and it's bothering me.
The OCD.
Oh. That must be the OCD showing up.
I hate the tangled wire situation when you just get a pile of wire.
No, and I feel like it's hurting it when it's like a severe bend.
Could have feelings, you never know.
And then you as a person make me anxious during that. So then I have to fix it. All right.
Are we ready
Ready?
for this? Are we ready to rumble?
You start.
Okay. Dear Abby Normals,
Welcome to Deeply Disturbing Things.
it's a podcast.
I'm Macy,
And I'm Naomi.
And I'm Sarah.
and we're three anxious counselors who like to talk about deeply disturbing things.
We're here to educate, enlighten, and entertain.
Heck yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Is that our new thing we say? Heck yeah.
Heck yeah.
Ugh. Okay.
So hard.
I think I'm first today.
You are first today. Yep.
This
Cheers.
is great.
Cheers.
Oh my God, why do I have 80 font that Macy can see?
I did read that because it was 80 font in all fairness.
Christ.
It was literally the whole size of your screen.
No, it's so big. Okay, well, I'll just cut to the chase. I'm going to talk about giants
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
because giants were real. I mean, they
Yeah.
may still be, but giants definitely were real at one time.
Mhm.
I'm going to focus
Just stare
on.
like, okay.
Mhm,
Tell me
disagree.
more.
Well, you're from
Disagree.
Nevada, right? Or you just
No.
live there?
No, I'm from California, but I lived in Nevada for 6 years.
Okay, I'm going to talk specifically about the cannibalistic tribe of red-haired giants of ancient Nevada.
What? Okay.
Yes.
That's what I was saying.
Giant skeletons have been found all over the US, actually all over the world, but I really wanted to just focus on giving a little overview of the US situation and then more details on the ancient Nevada tribe. Skeletons 7 feet tall and even taller have been reported in lots of newspapers back in the day. Oral traditions of indigenous cultures and other historical accounts. In the Ohio River Valley, which is supposed to be like where the giant culture in the US sort of started and then maybe spread out. That's one of the theories. A report from a local paper that was backed up by Scientific American, no less,
Science in America.
found bodies of several giants buried under a 10-foot tall mound.
What constitutes
Oh.
a giant? Because to
That was my
me,
question.
my 5'3", 5'4" on a good day, 6 foot feels pretty giant.
So most of the reports are between, like it can go from like 6.5 feet to 10 feet.
Dang.
A lot like but in that 7-8 range.
Mhm.
But I mean, have you seen like NBA players?
Well, yeah.
Animal cracker.
Like they're tall.
She's tall.
And Animal Cracker was only 6'4",
That's crazy.
but on skates 6'8".
Oh, wow.
Right.
Yeah. So 10
Yeah,
foot
you call
tall
it the
is
gentle
tall.
giant. Right?
Mhm.
Gentle giant.
Mhm. Which one?
Animal cracker.
Oh, I
Yeah.
thought you meant Andre.
Oh yeah.
Oh, he is also a gentle giant.
I love the Princess Bird.
Yes.
Such a good book and movie.
So these mounds, these burial mounds is a whole nother topic, but I'll touch on them just a little bit because it's important to the background and the history. Have you heard of the mounds, the giant mounds?
No.
This is in the US. This is like,
In Nevada.
Well, they're all over the US.
Oh.
This one in
okay.
particular is in the Ohio River Valley, but they're like the US version of the pyramids,
Okay,
but they're
they
made
don't
out
sound
of-
as cool. They need to come up
they're
with
made
something
out of
better than
dirt.
that.
Well, they kind of look like mounds.
Mound. Like,
Pyramid was a cool word for a triangle. I
yeah.
think we could do better than mound.
Well, some of them are that same shape
Mhm.
as a pyramid with the, the base that's for
Like maybe we
4x4.
could do something cool called like a tiramai. And people be like, why it's called that? Why is it called that? Because it's kind of like a pyramid, but not.
Yeah, I think we got to consult with the tribes.
Mm,
I don't know. They probably have some cool word that's way better than mounds.
mhm.
I just think of
Sometimes you
either
feel like a nut. Sometimes you don't. Like
Yeah,
mounds?
sounds-
deeply
mhm.
disturbing. I don't know the commercial that well.
Almond Joy.
I love that's my favorite one, and I
Okay.
don't know that song.
Wait.
Well, then you feel like a nut.
Isn't Almond Joy different than mounds? Or is it the
Yes,
same?
that's different
Almond
candy.
Joy has nuts. Mounds don't.
Okay.
Mhm.
I feel like a nut.
I don't love those candies, by the way.
I love
like-
almond joy.
I love coconut. I'm always a
Mhm.
fan of
I
coconut
like that
wherever
nice
it
little
shows up.
almond in there is a nice little nutty
Little
break.
treat,
Yeah,
little protein.
enjoy it. Mhm.
Mm,
It always makes me cough though. I don't know what about that process.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's
One female skeleton was found holding a 3.5 foot long child.
3.5 foot child. How old was
Long child,
this? Like a baby?
like a baby.
It was a
Like
3.5 foot baby.
Baby.
Bebe, yes, that's a big bebe.
That's a big baby.
So you know me, I'm always like, I'm not gonna just believe these articles that are all saying it was backed up by the Scientific American. I want to see for myself.
Mhm.
So I went and looked at the Scientific American archives. Sure enough, I found 2 articles. One was titled Giant Skeleton Found, which I just copied and pasted. That's why
That's
it's
the big
85
giant
found font.
Is it because it's a giant name? You're like,
yeah.
giant font.
So that was-
Giant's bones, big font.
Yeah.
From 1856 and then Giant's Bones from 1850. And there was a link where you could download a PDF, but interestingly, for both of these articles, it said that it was not functioning. I'm like, they knew I was coming looking, hiding the evidence. But I couldn't read it, but they had like a little like thumbnail of the newspaper. So I'm going to say it's, plausible. Cahokia is another one of many ancient Native American sites, and this is where the Monk's Mound is located. And this mound is
I mean, is
big.
anyone else thinking like highly inappropriate sexual monk's mound is really big? That's really sounds dirty. Sounds dirty. Sounds like a bad porno.
I wasn't thinking that.
Oh, sounds like a bad porno.
But now.
Sounds like a bad porno the United States government would make and then not release.
Monk's Mounds.
Refer to episode.
Refer back to previous episode.
Monk's Mound is roughly the same size as its base as the Great Pyramid of Giza, which is 13.1 acres.
That's what she said.
It's big.
Something.
And here, among lots of other cool artifacts, were massive axe heads. And I watched a video where they're showing them because there's a little museum you can go to.
Oh.
And
Is it a little museum or a big museum?
it's a little
Or a giant
museum with some giant things, like a massive axe head this long, 30 pounds. Who can wield an axe head that big?
I can wield very little, honestly.
30-pound axe head, 18 inches long.
Got like lifted up and oh,
Just fall
And it
over.
was definitely an axe head because they had a whole bunch of other examples of
Mhm.
like typical sized axe heads
Mhm.
from back in those times. There are news articles from the 1800s and early 1900s in the New York Times and other supposedly reputable sources that document rough handling of the giant skeletons when they're being removed from the burial grounds. There are also many articles documenting skulls that could fit over an average man's head like a helmet,
oh,
double
I
rows
wouldn't
of
recommend
teeth.
that, but
These double rows of teeth come up often, and occasionally there were small horn protrusions. Often the skulls were said to turn to dust as soon as they were removed from their burial chambers. So there is article upon article upon article from all over the US documenting this stuff from the, the 1800s up to even the mid 1900s. There was some I saw that were still in the 50s. There's a fellow, Jim Vieira, who stars in the History Channel Search for Lost Giants. And he says he thinks that back in those times, everybody was aware of the mounds and that giant and the existence of giants, because this was primarily an agrarian time. So everybody's out there, in the fields and all that, plowing the land, harvesting the bounty of the earth. There's even a supposed
voice changed. I don't know where you went. Just
I
like
don't know.
you were gone. You were out there in those.
I was out
mountains.
there. I was
In the field.
I was so in the fields,
I'm
tilling.
It's
gonna.
like a guided
I'm gonna.
relaxation.
I know. I'm gonna listen back just to hear you.
I was tilling at that moment.
I felt it. I was there for a moment.
You
But
brought
you-
us back.
I could smell the hay.
The barley.
So even Abe Lincoln, honest Abe, wouldn't tell a lie. In a written account of a speech that he was going to give at Niagara Falls, he wrote, quote, "The eyes of that species of extinct giants whose bones fill the mounds of America have gazed on Niagara as ours do now," unquote.
Hmm.
So I guess the term mounds has been around for a while. And we may have trouble rebranding it.
It's
When-
just. I feel like we could do better.
When did he do this speech? When?
Back when he was alive at some point.
Okay.
Do you think?
When was he alive?
Who knows? I don't
1860s.
know. When did they
Hmm.
stop making those hats?
I mean, Civil War was ended 1865-ish, so sometime in that era.
Mhm.
Vieira believes that a prejudiced narrative was created to discredit Native Americans or portray them as savages, because if they were seen as having built the mounds, it would show them as mathematically and technically advanced. And, that gets in the way of the controlled narrative of manifest destiny. And
They can
so
come up with manifest destiny, but they use the word mounds.
removal of any evidence of the giants might have occurred because it didn't align with manifest destiny. And I dove into this. There's so many different things. I'm like, oh, future topic.
Mhm.
But there's these stoneworks on the East Coast that have largely been credited to the colonial folks. And
Shocking.
he went in there and he's like, there's no way, this is way, way older than that. So there's a general discrediting of the ingenuity of ancient tribes. So many of the mounds were allowed to be destroyed by settlers and farmers during the colonization of America with really no regard, blatant disregard to the reverence that the natives held for them. They're sacred spaces. So we don't really know, I don't really know whether the tall skeletons belong to a separate race of giant natives themselves or to another race that predated them. But it is generally thought that the Native American Indians did largely revere, and some, in the case that I'll be telling you about, fear these giant natives. There's also a conspiracy that the skeletons were handed over to the Smithsonian, who disappeared them. There are reports of the museum, which I didn't look into this, but that there are 17 cases of the Smithsonian uncovering giant skeletons over 7 feet tall. And, the probability of a human growing that tall is apparently 0.000007%, meaning they would have had to excavate 2.5 million bodies to have found 17 skeletons of that size. But either way, there is currently no record of the giant skeletons in existence now. Tons of records of them being unearthed, of them being witnessed, of them being transported here or there, but they're gone now.
Who's doing all this disappearing?
Some people have pointed some fingers at the Smithsonian, but I think that there are probably others involved. I mean, they're not that
Like,
powerful.
what's the motive behind that for them?
To
Well,
discredit.
control the
For
narrative.
for the Smithsonian? specifically?
Control the narrative.
Hmm.
I mean, if there's this whole other, I mean, there's a structure that certain people want to set up of why we're who we are and
Mhm.
why we're here, and that kind of throws a wrench in things.
And like
Mhm.
you said, to make it seem like they were like savage, uneducated, or just and not capable of building. things.
And I could see it just from the like, if they're like, well, that's not plausible, we're not supporting that, we don't have enough evidence, we're not gonna put it in our museum, sort of thing. I could see them saying that. No, I don't know the people.
Well, there's lots of evidence that they took the skeletons, but no record of where they are.
Do we actually, like, do we have, how do we know that they took them?
So this is where I didn't go to source material, but there's articles that have said that the Smithsonian had a division for exploring mounds, and that there is a written record of them uncovering giant skeletons whose bones crumbled to dust when exposed to the air. But I don't have any connections to that.
Because that sounds like it could have fed the narrative that they were savages, though. Like, oh, these giant, people that I don't know, just it's make it sound like a scary thing or like a fear-based thing. But yeah, for some reason.
Yeah, and it's not known, did the giants, build these mounds, or were they just living at the same time as other tribes? In some cases I read about the giants were buried on a lower level, like a lower layer than other native tribes, so I'm not sure.
Interesting.
Yeah, I want to know more. Somebody tell me
Right.
if you know more.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Back to our cannibalistic red-haired giants of ancient Nevada. The Paiute tribe lived in the same area at the same time as the red-haired giants. So here they're coexisting in the same time period and place. And the Paiute tribe called them Sitka, which I may be mispronouncing that probably. But the Paiutes told stories of the red-haired giants to the early white settlers, and the story was written down by Sarah Winnemucca Hopkins in a book that she published in 1882. She wrote about what she described as a small tribe of barbarians who ate her people in her book called Life Among the Paiutes, Their Wrongs and Claims. She was the daughter of a Paiute chief, and she was an activist. So this purpose of this book is really, she wanted it known how her people had been done dirty by the whites. And you can download for free the book. I downloaded it, looked through it. I mean, she's not pulling punches. She's like, they did this, they lied about this, like this was shitty, this was shitty. Yeah. So it's important to note that Winnemucca does not use the word giants, but calls them barbarians. So I'm just gonna tell a little bit of excerpts from that section of her book, because I love me some source material. Okay, so this is Sarah Winnemucca Hopkins. Among the traditions of our people is one of a small tribe of barbarians who used to live along the Humboldt River. It was many hundreds of years ago. They used to waylay my people and kill and eat them. They would dig large holes in our trails at night, and if any of our people traveled at night, which they did, for they were afraid of these barbarous people, they would oftentimes fall into these holes.
That is creepy.
That tribe would even eat their own dead.
Could you imagine if we were walking over here from
And
your
just
house
fell
like we
into
did, we
a
just
hole.
fell into.
Fell into a cannibal pit.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes, they
No
would.
kidding.
I don't wanna imagine.
They would even come and dig up our dead after they were buried and would carry them off and eat them.
Mm.
Now, I was reading this, I'm like, 1882, female writer, like this is graphic. I got
Right.
some respects for Sarah Winnemucca Hopkins,
Yeah,
like just
mhm.
telling it. My people say they were very brave. When they were fighting, they would jump up in the air after the arrows that went over their heads and shoot the same arrows back again. So, you're getting an arrow shot at you, you grab it and just send it back. Like
Yeah,
that's impressive.
that's pretty badass.
Mhm.
My people took some of them into our families, but they could not make them like themselves. So at last they made war on them.
Hmm.
This war lasted a long time. Their number was about 2,600. So a lot of giants.
Mhm.
The war lasted some 3 years. At last, one night, they all landed on the east side of the lake and went into a cave near the mountains. It was a most horrible place, for my people watched at the mouth of the cave and would kill them as they came out to get water. My people would ask them if they would be like us and not eat people like coyotes or beasts.
Hmm.
They talked the same language, but they would not give up.
Hmm.
At last, my people were tired and they went to work and gathered wood and began to fill up the mouth of the cave. At last, my people set it on fire. At the same time, they cried out to them, "Will you give up and be like men and not eat people like beasts? Say quick, we'll put out the fire."
They
No
tried.
answer came from them. They
Mhm.
tried, yeah.
Mhm.
In 10 days, some went back to see if the fire had gone out. They went back to my third or fifth grandfather and told him they must all be dead. There was such a horrible smell.
Hmm.
My people say the tribe we exterminated had reddish hair. I have some of their hair, which has been handed down from father to son. I have a dress which has been in our family a great many years, trimmed with this reddish hair. I'm going to wear
Wow.
it sometime when I lecture. It is called the mourning dress, and no one has such a dress but my family.
That's
Okay.
great and horrifying.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Horrifying.
That account?
Horrifying.
Yeah.
So I thought it was interesting that they speak the same language.
Right, right.
So maybe they just lived in the same small
Area.
isolated geographic area for a long time.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then they tried to like quote unquote civilize them,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Make peace
but they kept eating them.
and they're like, no, we like the tasty people.
Quit eating us.
I mean, this is like, it's like a
Aw.
spider in my house. I just like, if you just don't crawl on me, I won't have to set you on fire.
You said spiders on fire, Macy? That's horrible.
Like a torch.
My God, that is brutality.
Whole nother level.
So you might be thinking like, okay,
It
this
sounded
is the
reasonable to
story.
me, was my point.
Okay.
Okay.
So is there evidence that this story is true? Yes, there is.
Hmm.
The site of the killing of the Satika is known today as Lovelock Cave. Have you been there, Sarah?
Have you been there
I'm
in your
not.
travels?
No,
I want to go there now.
I'd like to go though.
It's in the middle of
I
nowheres.
bet. Yeah.
And you wouldn't
Mm.
think, whose phone is this?
My phone.
Look it up on Google Earth, like Lovelock Cave.
That's pretty today.
You wouldn't
Thanks.
know there was a cave there. It's really hidden. And I didn't read that whole thing. I just took out
Cave
bits.
Lovelock?
Lovelock Cave.
How is it named?
Google,
Love?
I'll go to Google
How
Earth.
does the name Love get involved? Lovelock. Do lovers go?
It had a lot of
Right.
names. I don't know. That's just what it's called now for the most part.
Hmm.
Okay, now to Google Earth. So Sarah Winnemucca Hopkins said that her people didn't even know that cave existed until the Sitika retreated there. But it's really in the middle of nowhere and you cannot see. Yes, Lovelock Cave.
Well, but there's,
Nevada.
but just Lovelock.
Oh, there it
Think
goes.
of that movie, The Hills Have Eyes.
Here we go.
There you go.
Oh, it's a town. Is it a town?
Well, we did the cave.
I
part.
did put cave and it didn't come
It
up.
took it away. I'd hate to.
Rude.
Well, Macy is looking up Lovelock Cave. And maybe you are too. Maybe you've beat Macy
Right.
to the punch. During the early part of the 20th century, archaeologists found thousands of artifacts inside this cave, which led to a lengthy excavation of the site and speculation that this Paiute story was real. Because, you know, as white people often do, they're like, oh, it's just a legend that Sarah's telling. Because there is a
Oh, I think
discounting,
Sarah's telling. Got it.
Yeah.
the other
The other
Sarah.
Sarah.
Yeah.
Because like people from like what European Western kind of heritage seem to discount the credibility of oral traditions. Like, oh, if it's not written in a certain way, it can't be true. But I think we need to respect that oral traditions are a legitimate way of sharing information and documenting information. So people are like, oh, maybe what we thought was just a legend is actually real.
Well, and we came across some of that when we were doing the sign language history and learning about
Oh.
how people have discredited sign languages as a legitimate language because it didn't follow the same grammar types as English did or French at the time.
Yes, we need to expand our minds. In 1886, a mining engineer from Lovelock was told about these red-haired cannibalistic tribes by the local natives, and he went out to the site because he wanted to prove it existed. He couldn't get an archaeological dig going because, you know, people are like, no, dude. But two miners realized, yeah, we're not really into
Sorry.
proving giants are real. But then two miners that went up with them saw that like the whole cave was covered with guano, which is bat
poop.
poop.
I know that from Ace Ventura.
Me too. That was my reference point.
And what I learned is guano was an ingredient to make gunpowder, which I did not know. And so now people are motivated to go start digging up the cave
Bunch of buttholes.
at that point. So in 1911, a dig was created to not do an archaeological dig, but to dig out the guano for profit. They stripped a layer of guano from the cave that was about 3 to 6 feet deep. So it was blocking the entrance of the cave. That's how much guano there
I wonder
was.
if somebody one day is gonna be like, we really need to catch some Macy poops, and all her poops have blocked the entrance of her previous home. We must excavate.
Oh my God, I hope you're not gonna be pooping that much.
Who knows?
Uncontrolled.
After my body did with COVID, and I just who knows? Whatever that one thing was I had, norovirus.
Norovirus, yeah.
My body does amazing things.
I heard it's going around the country right now.
No.
I have 2 staff out at work.
Is it
I'm
called
fine.
Sore throat.
I don't.
I mean, I'm sure.
It's
No,
puking and pooping.
No, it's like extensive body
It's like-
evacuation from every end all the time, and you feel like you're dying in your insides.
They just went at it with a pick and shovel. Didn't, you know,
Not very effective.
no regard to artifacts,
Mm.
you know, that might be there.
Mm.
Just going for the guano, just breaking shit up.
Podcast name.
Like which one?
Going for the guano.
But then the miners had told the University of California anthropology department, like, hey, you know, we dug some shit up.
I like that one.
That one's good in context.
And so the first archaeological dig of Lovelock did happen in 1912. And then a second dig took place in 1924. And then a report, the official report by UC California, was published in 1929. And, you know, they found all kinds of cool stuff. There was approximately 10,000 archaeological specimens, including tools, bones, baskets, and weapons. There were 60 average height mummies unearthed. It's just amazing.
Hmm.
And
for their meals. right?
Well, this is just average height.
Yeah. 'cause
But that's who
the
they ate.
people that was like their snacks.
Oh my gosh, maybe it was. Snacks. A sandal over
Human snacks.
15 inches long was excavated. That's a big ass sandal.
That's a Bigfoot.
Mhm.
Big ass
A
sandal.
big ass sandal. There was a donut shaped stone with 365 notches carved along the outside and 52 corresponding notches on
How
the
many people
inside.
they ate? How many
Well,
times they
scientists
ate
are
them?
thinking it was a calendar,
Oh,
which speaks to, awareness of
their
um,
bodily functions. and how it rotates
science.
on the day.
Science. So these finds were very old. Radiocarbon dating showed vegetable materials back to 2030 BCE, a human femur back to 1450 BCE, human muscle tissue back that old.
All those poor people that were eaten in this cave.
During the initial excavations, there were reports of mummified remains being found of two red-haired giants, not one, but two red-haired giants.
Didn't they say there was like 2,400 of them though?
2,600 originally.
Originally, so that's not how many were in the cave. I imagine 2,600 people.
Well, they went to war for 3 years, so maybe some ran away, maybe
That's
some
right,
were
I forgot-
killed
I forgot.
outside the cave.
That's right, which
One-
they did, they killed them.
Yeah,
Well,
one was a
they were set on
female,
fire, too.
6.5 feet tall, and the other was a male over 8 feet tall.
Mhm.
However, as I mentioned, no evidence of these skeletons where there's clear documentation of them being pulled out of this cave, being pulled out of these mounds around the country. Where are the skeletons?
Where are the skeletons?
Where are the
Tell us.
skeletons? Tell
United
us.
States government.
Who is covering this up?
Which
I'm
porno
crying.
did you not release for this one? Oh wait, we already know that. The monk's mound.
In an article published in the Nevada Review Minor in 1931,
Not Ursa Major.
it was reported
Mm.
that ER, not OR.
It was
Minor Lick.
it was a bad joke.
Oh,
It's a really bad joke.
I'm getting some gold. It was reported that
It went good places, so I'm glad I said it.
2 very large skeletons were found near Lovelock. So these are 2 totally different skeletons. One was reported to have been measured 8.5 feet tall, and the other was nearly 10 feet tall. And if you've ever seen the photos of like the world's tallest man, who is like, I think he was 9 feet tall. I mean, he's huge. Look at world tallest man. So this is 10 feet
Go.
tall.
I know, I was thinking that you'll beat me.
And listeners at home, see if you can beat Macy and
Robert
or Sarah.
Wadlow.
Oh,
Got it,
my
win.
phone's so.
Yes, look at that picture. That's
Mhm.
what 9 feet tall looks like. That's freaking huge.
I'm like up to his kneecap.
So imagine 10 feet tall.
Me.
Oh,
So imagine whole tribes like this that are freaking fast, cannibalistic.
I'd
did
be
they say they were fast?
Yeah, because they could jump up and grab the arrows and shoot them back to them.
Yeah,
Plus, they can dig holes hella fast in the night on the trail.
they're not like digging holes fast. They just
Yeah, I was just
take
saying,
their
there's
time.
nothing saying that, and I thought they said their tribe members were brave because they would catch it and put it back.
It's because
I mean, I think you're getting a little fantastical here.
That's for Sarah Winnemucca Hopkins. Those are
No,
her
but I
words,
thought,
not mine.
but I,
No, she was talking about the giants. Yeah, that's tall.
I mean, it makes sense though, if there's giant people getting together.
I mean,
producing,
I'm
they're going to
kinda-
make tall
I'm kinda
children and then
glad
they're
that
getting together.
they're tall and fast, because I feel like I can at least spot them across the horizon. If they were
Coming
small,
for ya.
they're small and fast, I'd be really freaked out. Like, we all know my fear of scary children. I don't like it.
Fast just seems creepy. like
Fast is-
scarier.
It's like zombies, like it shouldn't be fast zombies. They should.
Yeah.
You're brain dead. Motor skills. Come on.
Fast spiders.
So
Or
sometimes
blowtorch.
Fast spiders get fires.
People these days have double rows of teeth.
Can we put that as a
That
Double
still
rows of
happens. So
Sharks.
there's a thought that maybe they're descendants of the giants. because
Yeah,
they had the double rows
yeah,
of
there are
teeth.
people who, yeah.
My
I've seen
son
that.
has sharp teeth,
Does he?
Double rows.
just two, but the.
Are you a
teeth-
giant? You are tall. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
Maybe
Oh my gosh.
undercover redhead.
Get
I
out.
might be a
Get out.
descendant.
If you start running fast, I'm gonna get concerned.
In summary, the Lovelock Cave is a significant site because it's largely considered an example of a quote unquote legend being confirmed.
What are you putting on
By
your to-do list?
archaeological
Sarah's over here
evidence.
on a legit to-do list.
Can
It says
you
to do.
please
What are you doing?
not work on your meal planning during the podcast?
Is it to do?
I'm putting in.
That's the longest to-do list. Do you know?
I know.
Do you
I
know
have a
to-do
lot
lists?
To do.
No, make anxiety worse. Don't have a to-do list like that. That's horrible.
To-do list.
No
so-
calendars with specific dates instead of lists
I
like
have
that. That's
both.
anxiety provoking.
But I was just putting,
Okay,
I
both,
was putting
right.
titles for the podcast.
I like my to-do list. You know what my first thing is? Make a will, because you're gonna die.
I have a professional will. You're on it, by the
I
way.
need a will.
She's my, if I kick
You're
off,
my
you're in
person
charge.
too,
Yeah.
but it's not official, it's just on my website.
Yeah, I'll just let you know that. I'll just say, hey, I know she wanted me. So
So in this case, what was confirmed by archaeological evidence was the story that had been passed down through oral tradition, that the Paiutes elders had been telling their children for years. Lovelock Cave was officially designated a historical site in 1984. And I'll just finish with this photo.
Ugh.
So this is purportedly a real
That's-
photo
that's
of a
so
skeleton, one of the mummified skeletons that was exhumed and disappeared.
I want to know why they disappeared them, unless it was just innocent, where they opened up the
And they all,
mound.
No,
and
I
just
doubt it was innocent.
disintegrated.
There's never innocence.
there's different sense.
I mean, when all of them are gone, so I'm just gonna, if that is legitimately real, then it legitimately has been covered up. Because there's no way, it's like Bigfoot. If Bigfoot existed, he would have been hit by a car at some point, someone would have dragged their body around. So like somebody else other than Smithsonian would have gone and dug it up. So someone intentionally has gone out and made sure that those places have been recovered and then hidden.
Hopefully hidden, because then they could be recovered. I hope not destroyed,
Mhm.
because that would just suck.
Well, I wouldn't put it past them because they're a bunch of dicks, but okay.
Well, giants are real, folks. You heard it here first.
Mhm.
Breaking news.
Don't be shocked when they come out of the mountains one day.
Mhm.
All right, so I was gonna print mine, like I was, what is this? Get
So
out
you
of
can
here.
throw papers around again.
Get away from me. It's my favorite thing. So, but then my printer was like, your alignment's off, skip. And I said skip. And then my paper got stuck in my printer sideways and then it was all over. So I had to
Oh.
take it via email. So it's my morning. I feel like I should scoot back up. No,
That makes me look like
No.
a giant.
Are you a giant, Sarah?
everything's
Maybe.
connected. Okay.
It just looks like you have a really big head.
Don't give her a compliment.
It looked like that on the podcast last week. I was really close. And then it would show your guys' heads all nice and proportionate. And then I would be like,
Hey.
I hated it.
It's the angle is towards you. Just so every full
See,
disclosure,
look,
the angle has Sarah closer.
It's
So
all
if
about the
this is here,
angles.
here, zoom in, zoom in. Show
do
them
you
what. how-
show 'em what
Show
my
what?
actual head.
Perfect. Okay, great. Okay, thanks. Okay.
I'm not sure what that exercise was about, but
I was
Proportion.
making sure
Because
people
we're-
knew I didn't have a giant head.
okay. I do
A
feel
giant's head or a giant's head. You already established your son has a double row of teeth. So, and you're a little tall and too pretty.
How
so
tall are you?
5'7". That's not.
Hmm.
It's close.
I'm 5'5" and a quarter.
All right. So I found a lunchbox. This is how this all started. This is the origin story. So I found a lunchbox at the thrift store with Steve Irwin. Wait, Steve Irwin? Is that the right one?
So.
Crocodile Hunter?
Oh
Yeah.
my god.
And it has him like jumping in. It's like this holographic.
My
little
family's
thing.
still in mourning about
I know,
that.
it's so sad. So that's not my topic. That's a pretty short.
But I follow
topic.
his family still.
Right,
The
right.
kids. They're
Bendy
so
and
cute.
Robert.
So cute.
Robert's a freaking babe now.
Is he?
Yeah, he's cute.
I
Yeah,
haven't seen.
he just turned 18, so I can say that.
Yeah.
So that's not my topic, but that's where it starts. So I got this lunchbox and I was so excited because it was actually from 2002, which is before he passed away. So it felt like this cool, like it has a thermos and all that, like this kid's lunchbox. It's cool.
That's fun.
So my topic,
Did you buy it?
I did. I have it.
Oh, cool.
I should have brought it and I didn't.
Oh,
Show and tell.
Sorry.
oh,
Next
show and
time.
tell.
So I was like, oh, I'm gonna look up about how like performers die by like all the people who are on dangerous animal shows. Like, is this a thing that happens that people are dangerously involved in? Which sounds deeply disturbing, and yes, it is. But I didn't like find that much that was really interesting to me, honestly. And I kind of feel like they deserve it, so I didn't want to talk more about it. So instead, though, what kept coming up over and over again is how Hollywood and entertainment treats animals. And that is what I decided to talk about today.
Okay.
So talking about specifically the entertainment industry, Hollywood movies, and the treatment of animals. And have you heard of Edison's elephant before?
I have not.
No.
But elephants make me sad just looking at them.
Yes.
Because
So
they're so majestic and so
smart and
abused
nice.
and endangered.
Mhm.
Yeah. They're so good to their babies and their tribe.
Yeah, and
And
people
their
just like
matriarch.
kill them.
Have you heard of Thomas Edison's elephant electrocution?
No, it's terrible.
Thomas Edison.
I know. So
Should
like
we all stop using Edison bulbs immediately?
That's it. Turn the light off.
You
turn the
GB
lights off.
hipsters, get
Except
rid of
for
them. They're not that
after-
cute.
After this, we can still use my little LED one because that's
No.
different. No, that one's different.
No, but you know, Edison
not-
bulbs that are all on trend.
Oh, the
My entire
little-
porch is covered with them.
Psh, enabler. Okay, so there were let me start over. So Thomas Edison's elephant electrocution is an elephant who was killed and filmed as part of entertainment. So
Terrible.
Terrible.
I can't even watch Dumbo.
so
I cried
Topsy,
so much.
It's too sad.
They make fun of
And it's a
ears.
cartoon. And I can't watch it.
which one?
Dumbo.
Oh, yeah, makes me
No, I'm
cry.
not
Locked
gonna watch
his
it.
mom up,
It's
and then
sad.
Yeah.
she's like in jail, like
Yeah.
and they're trying to hold each
Oh, I can't. Oh, fuck that shit. I can't
So
watch that.
this elephant
Why would they do something like that?
was charged with 3 deaths. Okay, so
Oh, so this was like capital punishment?
the third death was a cruel trainer that she had who tried to feed her a lighted cigarette.
Mhm.
Naturally, she killed him, obviously.
This sounds like victim blaming 101.
Right.
Don't
So
blame the elephant.
Edison electrocuted Topsy the elephant, with alternating currents to show how dangerous it was. So he found out about this dangerous elephant who had killed people. And so then he wanted to be able to demonstrate electrical current with her death.
I hate you, Edison.
This was part of his feud with Nikola Tesla. Tesla had way better technology at the
So
time, by the
Edison.
way. Different topic, different day.
Mhm.
But so this was in his feud, and it was titled Electrocuting an Elephant in 1903. The idea was to find the most merciful way to kill Topsy was his labeling of it.
Okay.
And that's such a cute name.
Topsy.
So in the 1920s, motion picture industry boomed and started getting new genres. And back then you could do really almost anything to an animal or an actor, honestly. And as many as, so the movie back then called Ben-Hur in
Oh, I've heard of
1926,
that.
Ben-Hur.
Yeah,
As many as 100 horses died
Yeah,
in the
I've heard
making of that
I
movie.
heard about that.
Mhm.
because they were really doing the
Right.
stuff that they're filming.
Well, and
All those crazy chariot races and shit.
right. So they
Oh,
had all these like really big project ideas, and they could, at that time, there really was no concern, I think, publicly about the animals' well-being, for the most part, socially. So then once sound got involved in movies in 1927, profits really started taking off. Studios started finding ways to get more and more people to come in. Animal actors were part of this process. Dramas, comedies, adventure stories, musical, biographies, all used animals in most movies, but the genre that used them the most was Westerns. So the popularity of Westerns was really hard on horses. Westerns were 2030s and then boomed in the 1940s. People were more familiar with horses then and more attuned to the dangers of a runaway team of horses or the dangers of a horse and rider falling. So directors showed lots of falls. That was pretty common in the shows or movies. And they would use things, they were called pitfalls or tripwires to make horses intentionally
So
fall.
mean.
Mhm. So they'd have the horses, going super fast and
Oh.
intentionally trip them. And there were some stunt horses who would fall at a signal that were trained to do that. Trained horses jumped through windows, through flames, they leapt over wagons, they
That's still
would
awful.
rampage, go
do they
through
do it now?
buildings. CGI.
Oh, it's not real.
I mean, most of it, yeah, because there's so much more attention on animal welfare in movies now.
Mhm.
So most of this was regular injury and often death of horses in the Westerns. Sometimes individual horses became known and they would get kind of protected because of their fame.
Hmm.
So they would, there was and often because the actors really liked them. So Western star William Hart had a famous pinto Fritz. Beautifully trained, Fritz would fall on command, lie down, act as a shield in a gunfight, and play scenes with a monkey. Singer Jim McKee had a scene in which Hart rode Fritz off a cliff into a gorge, but the actor didn't want to risk hurting Fritz. Or a stunt horse, actually. So a fake Fritz was actually constructed.
There you go.
Hart was filmed galloping onto the edge on Fritz, at which point on cue, the horse did a fall to one side and then was led away and replaced by fake Fritz
And
that
then
was
they
held up by a
ended up
wire.
dead.
So did the fake.
Well,
Um,
see, that's good.
Hart was badly shaken by the fall, even just the fall to the side, and wrote Pettering Day Mitchum and Hollywood Hoofbeats that the horse
That's a great name.
I tried to keep a straight face, that the horse was chillingly spectacular. So much so that the motion picture producers ended up had to explain why he had been so cruel to Fritz previously. So all of a sudden you start hearing like,
Advocates.
yeah, like, why are we doing this? Now defend why you're making them do that.
Mhm.
But this is really the exception to the rule. Most
Mhm.
Hollywood horses aren't famous, less recognized and viewed as disposable.
Mhm.
In 1939, 2 horses were killed in the filming of Northwest Mounted Police and 2 more in Jesse James. The horses in Jesse James were wearing movie blinkers with eyes painted on them. Unable to see, the horses had no idea they were running off a 75-foot
Oh
cliff
my God.
over white water until it was too late.
What the fuck?
The footage was impressive. The stuntman was well paid, but the horses died. Like,
They painted over their eyeballs and sent them over a cliff?
Disturbing.
so they'd be running
What
nonstop.
was this?
That's Jesse James.
I've never seen it.
I haven't
There
either.
never will.
Old
And
Hollywood
I
cowboy
never
movies,
will.
but they were really, the spaghetti westerns and stuff were really popular for a very long time, actually. Probably a big money surge into Hollywood for sure. So I was like, as I was reading about this, is why my topic turned. I was like, what the are you kidding me?
Yeah, because you're a horse person.
I am a horse. And I think even if you're not a horse person, it's still like paint
But
their
still,
cover
like,
their eyes.
you've been up close and personal.
I have. You're such a Californian. Been up close and personal with a horse. Yes, I did 4-H and barrel racing. Yeah.
Oh,
so-
barrel racing too?
Mhm, mhm.
You're a woman of many talents.
Yep. This was the single biggest turning point for Hollywood's treatment of animals. Word about death got out, and there was a lot of fury about this outcry. The Hayes office worked with AHA to write guidelines for animal performances. Starting in 1940, the AHA was granted access to sets. So at this point, they would insist that, there was a lot of extremes, and this is the 1940s. So a lot of extremes at the time in general. So things like making sure that marital bedrooms had twin beds.
I Love Lucy.
And that Betty Boop dressed more modestly. They also banned apparently animal cruelty as well. So it's the morality police, I guess.
It's under the same umbrella, I guess.
I guess.
That seems very different.
It does seem very different. Having horses run off a cliff and
Sex
two
and death.
married,
Let's just put
two
it
twin
together.
beds. Okay, so films were submitted to the office before release to get a certificate of approval, and often changes were demanded before the certificate would be issued. My problem with this is like the film was made.
Yeah, people are still
Before-
making money off of the blood of the horses.
Right, so it's like, okay, so you don't like how that went, great, but like those two horses already died, so okay, yes, you make them do it different, but like they already died.
So there was no accountability.
Right. So in 1968, the Hays Code was dumped, mostly because it was ridiculous. Now you could have actors swear, you could ridicule the clergy, married couples could be in the same bed, so a lot of rules were changing around that time. It was good news for movies, but not animal welfare. So unfortunately, this rule got clumped into a bunch of ridiculous things, and then they were like,
So they threw that out too.
right, so the whole thing was.
That's how government works, though. They
Right,
always
no,
they
it's
throw these extra bills in. That's why stuff gets tied up.
Right, right.
They're
so
like, we'll
silly.
pass that if you put this on.
Right. So the end of the Hays Code contributed to the rise of New Hollywood, the golden age of movie making. And younger filmmakers were creating realistic and daring movies with subtlety and less dependence on formula, and creating more and more realism, trying to do location shootings, and sadly more problems with animals started happening again. So through the final days of the 60s into the 70s, it was bleak. Some people were banned from film sets altogether, who may take issue with the animal abuse. There was a push for gritty realism, and they didn't like to be told what they could or could not do with animals. She called those the dark days because AHA wasn't on set. They couldn't prove that the two mules were killed. In the Spanish set of Patton, for example, in a movie in 1970, in a scene in which General Patton shoots two mules blocking a bridge. But
Was
throughout,
it a snuff film?
do you know it? I mean, no, I don't think so.
I've seen Patton many times.
Is it a snuff film?
Well, snuff film means people
Oh.
are killed in the thing.
Oh, but you mean a horse.
But were they
Mules.
actually killed on the set?
That's what they're saying, is that they have no way to prove it because they weren't allowed to be on set during it.
God,
Um,
I'm horrified.
so the AHA's list of an unacceptable movies cites a litany of animals killed for entertainment, horse wire trips, mistreatment of animals, and live snakes sliced into pieces.
Oh,
Mhm.
why? That's so mean.
So yeah, a lot of those
I'm a
movies
snake
in that
person.
era, because I like the Western stuff. You used to have that big
I
snake.
don't-
Yeah.
a
Snakes
few,
don't bother
a
me
few
at
big
all.
snakes.
I don't like watching them eat rats
It's
because I
because
like
they don't have
rats.
8 legs. They don't go. "Whoop."
So many people are terrified of snakes. They don't bother me.
They don't
I
bother
will
me at
pet
all.
them. Spiders, terrified.
Exactly.
I've had too many on my face in this last year where
Right.
like they're on my face and I do this. I'm like, holy shit,
Oh, I
no,
hate them so much. I hate
it's
Why
true.
are they on your
some
face?
people are
Why are they
terrified
on
of
my face?
snakes. Like
Oh,
I
my
know.
grandma, sorry, I keep playing
Oh,
footsie with
I
you.
know.
Sorry. My grandma was terrified of snakes, and she would be like, if you had a fake one or it was on TV,
Terrified.
she'd start screaming profanities at you. She'd get so angry,
Oh.
so angry. Mhm.
I think that there might be a religious connotation to it.
Maybe.
Mm,
Yeah.
The
like
serpent.
evil.
Mhm.
Mm.
So to me, like when I think Westerns and I'm going like, okay, 1920, sure. Yeah, there was animal abuse. Yeah, they thought those things were okay. It's horrific. But like time wise, it makes sense to me. I didn't so much think about the 60s, 70s, 80s,
Yeah.
but it makes sense with that act going away and all of a sudden the restrictions get lifted. And we're like, more free as a society. So people are trying to test that a
Yeah,
bit
and they're
more.
just like not cool people that are
Right.
producing.
So that gritty realism became like something that people were aiming for. Oh, so there was 2 notorious animal welfare abuse reports in Hollywood history that are well known. One, it was in Apocalypse Now. Do you remember
Oh,
that movie?
of course.
1979. So there is a real water buffalo that was slaughtered. And so movie got lots of great reviews, lot of upset. It violated the Cinematograph Animals Act. So one thing that I read, so in a different article, their justification for this was that the indigenous tribe in the area would have a sacrificial like slashing. It was true to how that would go of a water buffalo, and so it was actually picked by the indigenous tribe
But were they
to
doing
do it.
that?
It wasn't them that did it. So what this is where people are like,
That's
yeah,
different.
but no.
Yeah.
Like, so yes, it was picked by them. Yes, it would have died anyways, which is the cinema's excuse is it would have died anyways. We checked with the tribe,
No.
but they hacked it to death for the movie and filmed it.
But and it's lacking all of the spiritual significance.
Exactly. So like, just because it would have died anyways, doesn't mean it was the same. Right. So that was, which is horrifying because I don't know why, but I mentally assume that in movies when I'm watching it's fake. And to know that like something like that was, oh no, you just sat and slaughtered an animal and made me watch it. Like
No,
I
it's a
didn't
sad
I
film.
didn't consent to that trauma. Right. So Heaven's Gate, 1980. I haven't seen this movie. Have you seen it? You have?
I think I have.
Okay.
Sounds familiar. What was it about?
It's I
The
have
name
no
sounds
idea.
familiar.
It was kind of identified as a flop overall. It was a very expensive movie that failed overall.
Was it?
It put United Artists out of business, like the production.
Was it about the
company.
cult? Maybe I'm
I
thinking of
don't-
the cult. Heaven's
Oh.
Gate.
No, I think you're right. Because maybe you're right. Because gets really gross. And so maybe that's why.
Oh, that was one of my old podcast topics. Was the Heaven's Gate cult?
Will you look up?
These are the ones with the purple Nikes.
Will you look up and see Heaven's Gate movie
Did they-
1980?
I
Did they
can't
go
because my
to
phone's
You
over
look
there.
up Heaven's Gate 1980 movie. Okay, so it was not good for animals either.
Wow, I don't remember there being
Okay, and
animals
so
in the
maybe
story,
this,
though.
well, I'm curious if it's the same or not.
Yeah.
So there were chickens who died in staged cockfights in it. A horse was killed in an explosion.
This cannot be the cult.
Okay.
It has to be different.
1980 Heaven's Gate film, an epic Western film written and directed by Michael
Okay,
Cimino. Okay.
Different.
Okay. So
Yeah,
it's a
because I
Western.
don't think the Heaven's Gate cult was till like the 90s or
Okay, okay.
2000s or 2010s.
So a horse was actually exploded.
What?
There were other
An alive horse?
An alive horse became a dead
Wow.
horse.
In the 80s? That's too.
I know. That's why okay. A horse was killed in an explosion. Horses were killed and injured in a battle scene. Other horses were alleged to have bled to provide gore for humans to be smeared with. The
When did they
actors.
start putting in like no animals were
We'll
harmed
get there.
in the
We'll
film?
get there. We'll get there.
Because I would have thought by 89
I know. I
it
would
would be
have
in
thought.
place.
Me too. And it wasn't. All because the AHA was gone at that point. So it was also claimed that cattle were killed and gutted so the innards could double for those of human actors. The AHA, which hadn't been allowed on set
They don't
again.
have a props department? Come on, guys.
So the AHA boycotted the film with picket lines. So I gotta say, like, the AHA had some silly things, but they did continue advocating for animal rights throughout film after that happened. The boycott was taken up across the US by local humane groups, and this time there were no voices sticking up for the artistic merit of film, which is what kind of was leaned upon.
I'm gonna have a really good collage for this episode.
I'm so
Oh,
excited.
I'm
It's
already
gonna be
envisioning it.
good. Just you wait, folks. So
Did you bring it to show? Show us
Oh,
up.
no, I forgot, sorry.
The Hays Code didn't come back, but AHA monitors came back on sets through a contract with the Screen Actors Guild after this. The Association of Motion Picture and Television Producers and the No Animals Were Harmed disclaimer that you mentioned
Okay,
came into being after because of this.
so what year?
It would have been after 1980. I don't know, probably a while after 1980 would be my guess, because that's when it was made. The AHA film and TV unit isn't paid by the individual producers of a film, but it gets most of its budget from yearly grants by the Industry Advancement and Cooperative Fund, so separate entity. 1988-ish published a set of guidelines for film and TV production. So that's when I was born. Since then, they say the incidence of death, illnesses, and deaths of animals on set has gone down.
Hopefully.
There are still occasional violators, especially when filming takes place overseas. That often is the case.
Because there's no oversight.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So some of Werner Herzog's films, which often include scenes of simulated animal cruelty, often arouse suspicion. So sometimes there's ones that say it's simulated, but when they film overseas, there isn't someone on set to
Check
verify
it out.
that.
What
right?
are some of those films by that person?
I would have to look them up, but
That
yeah.
name sounds familiar.
Werner Herzog.
Yeah.
Before production even begins, the AHA in the United States reviews scripts, looks for potential problem situations first, and advises the producers on how to handle the animals that they plan to work with. Frequently mocked, it has also probably created a widespread awareness of animal welfare as an issue. AHA's guidelines evolve sometime in the light of new research, so it changes as they learn more information, which I think is good. There was a time when they did allow tranquilization for the sake of entertainment, as long as it was done by a licensed vet, and as long as the vet stayed present on the set,
That's still fucked up though.
right? But on a film shoot in the late 90s, a bird was tranquilized on set. It was very warm, and the bird didn't make it. We just said, you know what? No. So the guy, right? So the guideline was changed. It's just not.
CGI that shit.
Mhm.
There's also been people in Hollywood who care about animals and they want to see them treated well. On the set of Horse Whisper, 1998. Again, like it is so appalling to me that this is also fairly recent.
Yeah.
A distressed crew member collared the AHA monitor, a horse with a bloody wound. She reported and said, in the corral, nobody seemed to care. They went to the corral. The horse stood there and had just a bloody wound on it. And there was 4 other horses in the corral that had similar wounds. Each had an identical bloody wound, all superb examples of prosthetics. So animal actors today have it kind of cushy. So AHA doesn't have to look out for tripwires, such things like that. They said that we wouldn't let the horse run even 3/8 of a mile for filming with drugs in its system, for example. So there's way more protections. They're screening things now. I'm just kind of horrified that it took this long.
Yeah.
And all that it took was one law to fall away for people to not give a shit anymore,
Mhm.
which just shows how fragile, like you said, like policies and all of that hold this all up.
It's a house of cards.
So I wanted to share one thing I found horrifying. So all those things are horrifying, but one movie that I grew up like really liking,
Uh-oh.
I know,
What?
What did you ruin
it's
for
the
us?
one in the
I know.
entire list that I was like, fuck, that I knew it. Milo and Otis.
Oh, I never watched that movie.
It's like a
It's not like a
cat
cat
and a
dog.
dog that like get lost in the wild.
It looked so dumb to me when I
Seen
came out.
that? It's like a homeward bound situation, right?
Okay, so I have to tell you about this.
Okay.
Did they kill those?
Okay, no, so okay. This was originally released in Japan in 1986. So again, we're not in the US during this. The Adventures of Milo and Otis depicted best buddies, the kitten and the pug dog. It was a little pug.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So
I don't.
it was
My phone's freaking out.
over there, yeah. So it was 3 years after that they released the US version. As cute as the film may be, it has a lot of rumors of animal cruelty surrounding it. So particular emphasis on a claim that 20 kittens were killed during the filming.
Wait, they had a whole bunch of Otises
No.
or Milos.
Milo. Was Milo the cat? Otis? I think Milo with the cat. It's been a while. So the rumors weren't substantiated, but again, it was originally filmed in Japan. And animal rights activists point at that the film's end credits don't use the standard American Humane Association disclaimer, but instead use a vague statement that says the animals used were filmed under strict supervision with the utmost care for safety and well-being.
Cat's Milo.
Milo. Mhm.
A ginger cat. Harken back to my episode on the mistreatment of redheads. I do mention how ginger cats are treated
Mistreated.
differently.
It's true. So because they're saying that they did not use the statement that no animals were harmed. They use a statement that animals were under the supervision with the utmost care for their safety and well-being.
cool.
Which
Well-
basically means we tried.
Yeah, they were under supervision with the supervisors.
We tried.
We cared about them.
Sorry.
Sorry.
We were like following guidelines, but didn't actually care.
Right. So a lot of what made the film, I mean, so there's, okay, so if the scenes in the actual movie are pretty terrifying after I learned about the animal abuses that are probably real in those older movies. Because again, as a kid watching it, you're like, this is not real.
You're telling
These are
yourself
all
that to
actors.
comfort yourself.
Right. So there's one particular scene where the cat Milo plunges more than 100 feet off a cliff into the ocean.
Just fucking throw that
Yeah.
cat off a cliff.
That's why so many kittens died.
I will. I'm flipping a table.
There were other scenes
I'm
that
taking names.
other scenes like Otis, who is fighting fighting a bear. So there is a real bear in the scene, and there is the pug dog Otis there. And one thing that the animal rights folks are paying attention to is the real distress that the animals are under. Like, you can train an animal to do things, but to actually show fear and
You have
like,
to scare them.
right.
Actually.
So how we don't know that the dogs were okay during this, but they put a bear and a dog together and filmed
That usually
it.
doesn't end well.
Right. So it's like you hope that went well and no problems were there, but there's no guarantees of that. No one was on set to verify
Somebody
that.
knows though. I mean, they filmed the whole thing, so somebody has seen the other footage,
Mhm.
so
It exists out
maybe
there
an
somewhere.
investigation could be done, because I want to come.
There's also Milo the cat again floating helplessly down a river and then being attacked by a crab.
That's all I know about that movie is the floating down the river scene.
And it gets attacked by a crab, like actually attacked by a crab, and like
Ouch.
right,
So they really
this
put a crab
kitten.
on
You
the
could
yeah.
still
movie.
put a little
Yeah.
kitten paw. So really what you're saying is anything prior to 89, when we think it's fiction, it could be fact.
Right.
We just don't
Horrifying.
know.
Yeah. So like, and
Horrifying.
it's gonna literally make me like scared to watch older movies.
I know.
I'm like, I won't want to. I can't.
I'll think it's real.
My stress. I can't watch National Geographic with like real animals being taken down, like a caribou.
like in an
baby.
actual natural
Like,
setting.
yeah,
it
when
makes
it's
so
like
sad.
when like nature just is fucking scary by
The
itself.
cheetah takes down the wildebeest.
Right. And
I
now
know,
I have to worry that Otis is actually taking on a bear. I can't do that. You kidding me? Do you know how many stray cats I've taken in? That's my topic.
So I wonder how this correlates with like animal experimentation and guidelines,
Different
like
future topic.
if
That's a whole nother thing.
like when.
Because so you
what
have to
was
think
it?
about like the entities that care about it at the time. So this would be consumer products, probably a whole different branch of the government that oversees that. Like
Mhm.
the only reason animal activists got involved is because people started getting pissed. Actors, people who had influence started
good.
getting pissed first, and it spread. Because again, like when you're behind the screen, it's so easy to be lied to.
Mhm.
So, unfortunately,
People think that was okay. Like, where's your heart?
Well,
Like,
I
how do you
think
feel like animals are
paying
disposable
people.
like that?
I think in
Producers.
there's a cultural aspect where
Mhm.
animals are just seen as to serve man.
mhm. Well, there's even some states that still view animals as property, so you could abuse your animal in theory
There's
because
probably
it's your
still some
property.
states that see your wife as your property.
Mhm. Right. Well, on that note,
If you have not listened to our last topic episode, there's only one topic because Macy had the vids.
yeah.
So I talked about the case of Maya Milietti, whose husband Larry finally is on trial for her murder and disappearance. And if you would like to support us, please be our patron on Patreon. It's only $1, which is minimal cost to you, but
These are
invaluable
You have one
to
can.
our
Isn't-
self-esteem.
Shocked. Isn't it almost like
Expensive.
$5 for one of these?
It's over $5.
See, for one can of wine?
Yeah,
Kidding
so
me?
we need, at least
Help us.
15 patrons to support
We're
our
trying real
drinking.
hard.
Yeah,
I mean, we get it, but $1 helps. You
It
know, you don't
does.
have to give us the 15, but $1 helps.
no, if we had $1
And we drive out here and we've even resorted to carpooling now because this matters to us.
because yeah,
Until next time,
oh my god, there's such a
Make-
big silence always.
make sure that you don't have your blinder eyes painted. Yep.
Boycott Edison. Turn off your lights.
Get rid of those Edison bulbs,
Mhm.
or let's rename them, because obviously
Like
Edison-
mounds need to be renamed anyways as well.
rename the mounds.
Yeah.
Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't.